Hello, everybody. I am Emer Diamond from Diamond Beef Box.
And I'm Charlie from Broughgammon. Everybody, big crowd.
Everybody, big crowd. Thanks for turning out. I would say leave questions to the end, please. But yeah, if you've got questions, if they're burning, do shout them out. But otherwise, we'll take them at the end together and try and answer them for you. I'm going to kick us off today, first of all, and talk about Diamond Beef Box. This is mostly geared towards people who might be thinking of going into selling their own produce, beef direct. Talk about what we do and how we got there. Maybe offer some advice for someone who's thinking that they might go into it. So who am I? I'm Eimear. I grew up on a beef farm in South Derry, and always loved farming, always loved agriculture, but just hated Northern Irish politics. Is that the wrong thing to say? Probably. So always knew I wanted to get away, really. So went to uni over in England and stayed for 13 years, and came back a couple of years ago. So came back home, but whilst I was in England, went into the meat industry, worked in abattoirs, bought cattle on farm, and then got into ruminant nutrition. And I suppose that's where I found my passion. That's what I do now at the minute as well. And then lockdown hit, and England then wasn't the best place to be all of a sudden. Came home, and yeah, loved being home, loved the farm again. Sort of found my passion, and then forgot how much I hated Northern Irish politics and just accepted it. So yeah, we're back home a couple of years, and came back home with a lot of harebrained ideas, as I always have. And my dad and my brother, who I farm alongside, sort of let me run with it most of the time. Stopped me occasionally, but Diamond Beef Box was one of those harebrained ideas, and why we're here today. So who are we? This is us. As a bit of a joke, a long time ago, we said we're the brains, the brawn, and the beauty, and that's where it's sort of stayed. I'm the brains, clearly. Come up with all these ideas. Damien's the brawn, sort of, does all the heavy lifting. James is the beauty. He said we have to give a shout out because he's the one doing the work, apparently, at home today. But yeah, if there's a camera going, or James will be in front of it. And that's who we are. What do we do? So we are suckler beef. I'm very passionate about that. We've got 45 cows, calves, followers, farming about 60 acres. And 18 months ago, this is when we got into Diamond Beef Box and decided that we're passionate enough about suckler beef. I did a course called Next Gen Regen, a few of you in the audience, and that's when I got into regenerative farming, and we started to change a bit about what we do then, looking at using less fertiliser, how we utilise our slurry. There's some ground we're looking at planting new trees on. Bees have come to the farm. There's been a lot of changes, and then we also realised that as we began to look at the figures and the numbers, we could be getting more money for what we do if we sold direct. And that's a lot of the reason why people start to look at selling their produce direct. So that's how it started, and that's what we do. So I suppose how we started selling the beef. 2 schools of thought: fail to plan, plan to fail. It just doesn't go right, or just start somewhere. And we just thought, okay, we'll start somewhere. So there's no plans. We just went for it. This is a picture of some terrible photography that we just started at the start. We just thought, we'll take some photographs and we'll go for it. So we launched one day, I remember it well, on a Saturday, on Facebook and Instagram, social media, and we had sold 2 animals very quickly that weren't even dead yet. And we thought, right, what are we going to do now? We did spend a long time over a logo and thought that was a be-all and end-all. It's really not. There's a top tip for anybody. It's nice and it's great and people comment on your logo, but it's not going to make or break you. I'll tell you that much for free. We did make our own very terrible website, and it'll do a job for a while as well. Don't worry about spending money at the start. Your own terrible website will do. Word of mouth is a big thing. People call to the farm all the time, neighbours, friends, people you don't know. When you start out, it's really important that you talk to people and that anybody that calls you, give them the time of day, I suppose. So word of mouth is a big help, especially in Northern Ireland. And you will be surprised who will support you and who won't. So if you're thinking about doing this, or you're giving it some thought and you're sounding people out, the people that say to you, "I definitely buy one of them," they probably won't. Don't be ticking up them people. It's go for it, but yeah, you will be surprised the people that come out of the woodwork to buy your stuff and support you and get behind you. Yeah, the boring bits. Environmental health has to be done, unfortunately. If you're thinking about it, it's something to consider. Charlie will have a lot more experience with it than I will, so he might cover that bit. Finding a good, reliable butcher is also something that you need to consider. Again, Charlie will probably talk more about that than I can, but you can have a really good animal and really nice beef, and a butcher can do a very bad job of that for you. There are butchers out there, all sorts of prices, but yeah, give it a go first, I would say, and see what they're about, because people will be tasting your product and it's your name, not theirs on it. Stock take, breeding and feeding plans. These are all things you need to be thinking about that are not the most exciting, but they do need to be done. Killing and butchery plans. The time of year will depend on what you're killing. If you're doing burgers, is it summertime? How many steaks you're going to make? Your roasts. People don't eat that many roasts in the summer, apparently. Market and outline. Do you attend events or not? People have always said to me, do you do farm shows? Do you do this, do that? It sort of doesn't really matter what you do as long as you consistently do it, I think. Either go for it because you're great at it, or don't bother because it's not your thing. Don't make yourself do something that isn't for you. Decide on who you are. This was a big part for us, I think, and why it's working for us, is you can be a whole lot of things to a whole lot of different people. You can be regenerative, and that appeals to people. You can be really health focused and talk about lean meat or whole foods or fat meat. Your breed is a big thing. We were predominantly Limousin shorthorn crosses. We've introduced Speckle Park. For some people that really matters and they love it. For a lot of people, they just don't care. Your system, I said at the start, we're passionate about suckler beef. A lot of people don't mind where your animals come from. So there's a whole ream of things that you can be, but I would say focus on what you're passionate about and stick with that. Don't try and be all things to all men. Really just stick with who you are and what you do. And for us, it's very much suckler beef we're passionate about, but moreover that is a family farm. We get more traction when we talk about who we are as people, our family, and that seems to appeal to people, and people talk to us about that. You need to have a good product. That's the first thing, don't get me wrong. That should be a given. If you're going to try and sell something, it needs to be a good product. After that, who are you? And if you don't like your face being on social media, that's fine. Pick something else you love. But if you like being on social media and you like talking about yourself, that'll sell for you as well. Nice picture of a tongue. Ignore the negativity. This was a big one for me. So you'll get a lot of people saying, James up the road used to do that and he sold 2 animals and never did it again, or you'll be left with lots of mince and nobody will ever buy anything but steaks. Yeah, all of these things are true, You will be left with a lot of mince. James up the road did try it. Yes, those things happened and they might happen to you, but it's not a good enough reason not to give it a go. So the reason it didn't work for James up the road is because he put meat in a box and thought it would sell itself, but Prince Charming doesn't come to your door. You sort of have to do something more than that. And it's not for everyone. And yes, you will be left with a lot of mince. That does happen too. So you have to think outside the box. It'll happen to you, and what do you do with it? Do you make more burgers? Do you make sausages? Do you approach a burger van and say, we'll do you a deal on them? What's going to work for your business? And it doesn't matter if you're selling beef or you're selling goats or whatever it is. It's these things will come to your door, but a lot of people will bring you the negative first. It's don't go with that. If you want to do it, go with it. Realities for us after 6 months. So as I said, we're doing it about 18 months now. Still not that long. But after 6 months, I think the realities were, sadly, you do have to plan a lot of things. I know I said at the start, just sort of went for it. But eventually you do have to start planning things if it's going to work out for you. No 2 months are the same. So, we're sort of killing 12-ish animals a year at the minute and selling it. But There are no 2 months the same. Every animal you send, you can't just say, do what you did last time. Depends on the season, depends if you have pre-orders, depends if you're going to a show. So there's a lot of work goes into the background, and it doesn't just go steady month after month. And at some point you'll have to spend money and reinvest. At the start, we certainly didn't spend money. We just went for it. Now, a couple of years in, we have spent money. We've got a website, we've had photography, we've got banners, we've done leaflets, we've done those things eventually. But we did not do that at the start. So I think if you start to make money at it, it's good to reinvest it in the ways that work for you. And yeah, lastly, my advice to you is consider really why you want to sell your product. What are you passionate about, and why is it? To bring more money into the farm is a great place to start. But after that, why is your produce different than anyone else's, and why should they buy from you? How much spare time do you really have? This is a real kicker. Takes a lot of time. It really, really does. And we recently just had a baby, and there's nothing brings it home than you've taken 6 weeks away from it all. And yeah, it really takes an awful lot of time away from everybody. Who will support you on and off the farm? So who's going to be there when you're not? And yeah, who's going to support you off the farm when you're trying to sell your products? Who's going to come to your events and listen to you? Who's going to ask the questions? Who's going to buy your produce and tell all their friends about it? Because that's a big part of it is people telling people. Are you passionate enough about your own farm and your own produce? Because if you're not, I can guarantee nobody else will be. So you need to know why you're doing it and why you love it. And lastly, I think just go for it. If anybody's in here thinking, I've come to see this because I'm thinking I might do it, just start and you will learn from there. Nothing ever works perfect the first time you try it. And whenever I started out, somebody said to me, the only thing I can tell you is when you fail the first time, make sure you get back up. There's a lot of the James up the road who did try it and they're not doing it anymore. And it's just important that you don't become that person if you really want to do it. So get back up, try it. Yeah, that's my advice to you. Thanks very much.
Straight into it?
Yeah.
All right. Hi guys, I'm Charlie from Broughgammon, and we'll just quickly go over about what we do, and then we'll do questions at the end there. So we're a small family farm. We're based just outside Ballycastle by about 5 minutes. We set up the farm initially, specialising in goats, and quickly moved into roast veal. We thought initially we'd be marketing the whole carcass straight up. We thought we had a guaranteed buyer. The Northern Irish Goat Society said they had a fellow who would take everything that we could produce. Unfortunately, he was from Iran, and things kicked off. And he had to go back out to Iran, and we were stuck with 30 goats, which isn't a great predicament to have in Northern Ireland. We're not too open to new things, and definitely weren't 15 years ago. So we have the Lammas Fair in Ballycastle, and we just took all 30 goats, turned them into burgers, and popped down the pub. Unfortunately, no one wanted a burger. On Friday night, someone got a little worse for wear and was the bad end of a dare. And he came up, staggered up, had a burger, and was like, geez, it's the best burger I've ever had. And that was it. We got going. We quickly realized, you had to be selling it as something which people could relate to. And the Billy Burger was born, and the street food was born that way. We then actually, when we went to kill them, we struggled to find an abattoir. Derry actually laughed at me down the phone when I asked where I could get goats killed. We used to use the abattoir cutting facility, but it was really, really poor packaging. I mean, you literally just got back a box of stuff which had been through a bandsaw, and you couldn't tell what was what. So we very quickly realized we would have to start looking at doing that ourselves or something. And we very quickly had to invest in a fridge van because an abattoir won't let you pick up anything in the back of a van, obviously. So we had to jump into the deep end and just go for it. For us, I suppose, then, it was a quick turnaround to get into farmers markets. Like I say, the burgers, they sold. So we started selling the cooked burgers, started selling the fresh cuts and doing our own butchery. We initially got our kitchen approved by the environmental health. We were literally just butchering on the kitchen table. My mum had done a bit of experience back in the day, so we had a bit of knowledge. We used to do our own lambs and stuff, so We just got going. YouTube, fantastic for anyone who wants to teach themselves. Just fast forward, 1.5 speed, gets you through it a lot quicker. So, so like I say, took on our own butchery and just got going. We did have a friend came to work with us, and he taught us sort of the finer stuff and got us more presentable. But like all things, it's like it's a skill. The more you do it, the better you get, and the faster you get. We were very lucky back then. We were in the EU, and they gave us money for projects. So we built a small butchery with the process and marketing grant, and that was fantastic. I mean, that was within the first 3 years, and we still use it. We designed it to be an EEC-approved facility. We never knew how long it would take to get there, but we thought it would take a while. Very quickly moved on to online sales. It's like you said, like to get a website up there, it's not too complicated. You've probably got a friend or a cousin who can probably knock one together pretty cheap. Like they literally just work like apps on a phone now, and you can just drag and drop what features you want. We actually, we're a bit cheeky. We've spent very little on our website. There's a lot of people out there who'll sell you the be-all and end-all, but guaranteed within a year it won't work. And we've just gone down the route of trying to learn how to do it ourselves. Becky, who was speaking earlier, my wife, she would have been a blogger, so she's quite good with blogging platforms and stuff. And like, it's clunky, but if it breaks at Christmas time, we can fix it. Whereas before, like if something went wrong, we had to phone someone up. Christmas Eve, when you've launched a whole load of new products, guaranteed it goes down over the weekend and you lose a load of sales. So we've tried to do as much as we can to bring that in-house. The biggest problem we had was wastage. Because we're doing everything nose to tail and we were specializing in goat and veal, we had no wholesale market we could go out to. So for us, we very quickly moved into the street food. Like we'd learned with the Billy Burger, if we could get it into a product that people could relate to, they were prepared to eat it. The other thing that we found was if you cooked something with a product that wasn't selling on the farmer's market, people would then come and buy it. So bottom right-hand corner, we have an offal taco. And that literally, we did like a chorizo marinade with the offal, popped it in a deep fat fryer, and it comes out like popcorn. Epic. Anyone who had one of those didn't say they didn't like offal after trying it. And this was us, like, here, make do and do without. Left-hand side, well, yeah, that's a cattle trailer. Just effect in a cooker and Bob's your uncle. Like, so long as it's all wiped down and the HO signs off on it, then you're grand, you're good to go. And just start with what you've got and go where you can. We were then very lucky, like you said, you get people on site and you embrace everything. You become a yes man. Don't say no to anything. The biggest problem we had was people rocking up at 10 o'clock at night asking if they could buy some goat. And you're like, come on, like, bit of personal space. So we very quickly built a farm shop, and it just meant that you had opening hours. That's when we're open. You come between then, and we are able to turn around and be like, no, we're closed. Come back Friday. Because I found I wasn't able to do the farm jobs, and I was getting behind. Some lad coming chatting to me for 4 hours. Not helpful. So yeah, farm shop and event space. And that just opened the space up. Very much like opening up to tourists, getting people in. It gives us a different platform to sell through as well. So the butcher's counter is in there. And then it also means we can start taking on other products as well and retailing that as well. Brexit came along, and that sort of messed us up. We'd built a good rapport down in the south, and we were trading as like a high street butcher, which meant you got under a lot of the heavy EU bureaucracy. The chance of a hard border was too much. Like, we've got 8 months worth of stock on the ground. Like, to be left without a market to sell it would have been atrocious. So we bit the bullet and we went for EEC approval. It's a lot of paperwork. It means rather than being monitored by your local environmental health officer, you're monitored by DERA. And that means you get twice yearly inspections. And it's unlike an environmental health officer where they just check that you've got some paperwork. They will literally go through it with a fine tooth comb and make sure the paperwork all tallies up and they can follow the products the whole way through. Bit of a pain. But like everything, there's apps out there and you can build systems and procedures to make it all sort of run like clockwork. It has enabled us to collaborate a lot more. We can now take our bones to a lady who makes stock. We can take our trim to a man to make salami. So that opens up our ability to collaborate a lot more. It also means that we can now open up our butchery to do contract butchery. And that just means that anyone who does bring their stuff to us, they can wholesale without worrying about being sort of marginalized and restricted, which is the heavy stuff, if anyone wants to know about that. That's me, really. I've some heavy slides if anyone asks heavy questions, but I'll not get onto those yet. So I suppose really, yeah. Any questions from the floor, please?
There must be some. I see some suspicious faces out there. Definitely got questions for us. Yes.
Do you want to go first?
I'll go first because I might be briefer. You maybe have a better answer than me. I would just say we started out and we probably were you. I certainly at the start had it in my head that we were going to sell 10 big boxes of beef in every animal. I had it calculated out. There were 10 big boxes or there were 20 small boxes, and that was it. We had 5 kilo or 10 kilo boxes of beef. That's what we were doing. And that is not what we do now. And it was probably what I started with was saying that where you think you'll start out probably isn't where you end up. And it's just being open to the fact it might not be what the public want. So I'm not saying you should split your lamb, but we certainly wouldn't probably still be here if we only did 10 kilo and 5 kilo boxes. We needed to go with what people wanted without changing who we were. So I think the message from us is still the same. We're still passionate about suckler beef. We're still passionate about what we do, but what we sell people will be more flexible on. And more recently than that, we've probably started doing a mystery box. And people go mad for something they're not sure what's in it. So sometimes I think even if you still did your half lamb but called it a mystery lamb box, you probably it's trying to go with the market and what appeals to people. So yeah, I'll not tell you what to do, but I would say yeah, we probably were you at the start and we have split it eventually. It's just making sure you have a market for the bits that won't sell as well on their own.
AHDB have a fantastic resource where you can look it up, and it gives meat boxes and it suggests how you should break it down. And what that enables you to do is to shift a lot of your trim and mince into a box. So it's like a set box and you get X amount per cow or X amount per lamb, and it'll move the bits that you struggle with. The problem is that can often be too much for what a member of the public wants, or, like you've now got bits left that you don't know how to sell. For us, with our website, like when we first started, we were too small to offer different cuts. We were selling primarily at farmers markets and then offering online. And we couldn't guarantee that there would be loin cutlets or loin rack. So we did a mystery box. You were always going to have some form of steak, and you're always going to have a roasting joint, and you're always going to have, something slow cooked. But it would vary between 3 or 4 different cuts as to what you got, and the website explained that. It was a bit of a nightmare to administer because people were like, what does this mean? So you quite often had to come back to people on the emails, and it just made it a bit more admin. But most of our customers now are regulars, and they sort of understand what that means. The other side of things, like we went into street food for just that reason. We were left with bits that you couldn't sell. Say, for example, neck chops. We could make up a stew or a curry or something like that, and we were able to bring it to market and sell it. And then people would say, oh, what was that? Oh, it was the neck chops. And then next week, you were stood at the counter and the neck chops had sold because they tried it and they enjoyed it. So really, it's just a case of sort of finding that niche. But definitely, like, you can break it down into smaller boxes. You can go down into small cuts, individual cuts. It's a nightmare for stock management on your website if you're doing that. But at the same time, at farmers markets, it sort of works because it's direct sale there and then. I suppose it just depends on how far up the admin scale you want and how far down the E scale you want. But definitely, like, boxes is going to be your simplest option. Maybe get a big chest freezer and save the bits that you aren't selling. And next year when you do the event again, that's what the chefs are cooking with. Or that's the product that you go out to a chef and sell to a chef. Look, I've got a run of ribs. We can do a special. Something like that, maybe.
Any other questions?
Emer, is there much paperwork if you're going to set yourself up if you're getting the butcher done for you? Is there much paperwork?
Yeah, so is there much paperwork is a question from about the back that didn't hear. An awful lot less than if you're doing the butchery yourself, I imagine. There's an amount of paperwork, yes. You still have to go through environmental health, food hygiene. You will have inspections, and they'll make sure the facility where you're storing your produce is like it should be, which is just right. If we're buying anything, we want to know that it's been stored properly. So yes, they want to come out and see it, and they'll probably pop out once every year, 18 months to check on that. The butcher you use has to be certified. So that's the biggest thing, is making sure that you have a butcher who's certified to resell, which again, I think Charlie's gone through that, so would know about that. But it's making sure the butcher you use, because then you don't have to do any of that paperwork. You just tell them who you deal with, and then they check with them. So you have to keep records of your fridge, your freezer temperatures, the stock you get in, the dates on it, and when it's been killed, that type of thing. But phones are amazing. Take pictures of everything, and just get an app and put it in there. So there is a lot of paperwork on one hand, but really not as much as if you're going to do any of this yourself.
Is it breaking your heart that the price of the factory is getting close to what you can sell at? Or
I'd say it's probably not breaking my heart because it's not my bank account. You could ask my father at the back. It is.
you're doing the work?
Oh, we're all doing the work. The three of us are doing the work. Yeah, I would say it's what we sell beef for is always more than the supermarket. You're at farm shop type level, your Marks and Spencer special or whatever you want to call it. That's the type of price range you're at. But there's only so much people are going to pay for beef. There's a ceiling on that. And yes, the price at the factory is pretty good at the minute. So we've done sums. Every animal we sent, we've done the maths to say, does this still stack up? The reality right now is it's tighter than I'd like it to be. The factory is a very appealing place to go and less hassle. But we've all been here long enough to know that this time next year, that's probably not going to be the case, or it might not be the case. So we've taken the stance we have to look after our customers and that we have to be there for them day in, day out. So, yeah. At some point, if it looks like the factory prices are going to stay as high as they do, our prices will have to go up a little bit to compensate for that. But we're just not there yet.
Last question, do you vacuum seal, and if so, can you send a postal order without freezing it?
So do we vac seal? Yes, we vac seal joints and steaks. And if it's going postal, it is frozen. Yes, everything's frozen if it's going on the post. I should have said that at the start, anything in Northern Ireland, myself, my dad or James will hand deliver. We've taken that stance for the first couple of years that people are connecting with us. That's our message. So we will take everything out. Don't ask me about whether that stacks up or not, but people want to talk to you and want to hear what you do. So that's what we do. If it's going to England, it goes in the post and it's frozen with ice packs and wool and all the rest of it. But yeah, we do vac pack. Do you want to answer those questions? No? All right.
Yeah, beef prices. How often have they ever been that high? Like, it's all about resilience. Like, you know, if you've got a guaranteed customer base, like, they're going to stay with you. Beef prices aren't going to stay with you. And if they do, then the retail price of beef is only going to go up. So, you know, stick with it. In terms of selling, we sell fresh. We use ice cubes. Like, it messes up what we can sell. So, like, we're limited as to what we sell on the website, but it works for us.
Yes.
Two kind of completely unrelated questions. One following on from the last kind of section of questions. Are you costing your own labour out for this additional work? Because obviously, like from a marketing and sales point of view, it's quite a substantial amount of work. And then the second, completely unrelated, but obviously the beef industry in particular, going forward, is going to face a lot of competition coming from the likes of Australia and New Zealand, who have invested heavily in meat quality, genetics, tender shear force, all this sort of thing, and they have, you know, a substantial lower cost of production. Is that sort of thing, you know, something that you're interested in, that you're looking at going forward, in terms of competing with those products coming in?
You go first? You want me to go first?
I'm going first all the time.
All right. So genetics, I have absolutely no control of that. I am buying in Derry bull calves and I'm buying in cade goats. Like, it's a system that has a lot of waste in it. So the more it seems to make efficiencies, the more waste there is in the system. So how's that efficient? But yeah, that's the angle we took, and that's what we do. Does it cost more to rear a kid goat and a bull calf? Yes, probably. But at the same time, we shouldn't not be using them. So that's why we sort of started doing what we do. Then what was the other part of the question? Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So no,
Absolutely no.
no. My attitude is I want to farm, and I could either go out and get a full-time job and be a part-time farmer, or I can be a part-time farmer and full-time on the road selling something which I truly believe in, and that's the way I've chosen to do it. So it takes a lot of time, but keeps me going, keeps me sane, and you couldn't put me in an office. I wouldn't be there for very long. So.
Yeah, time and do we cost it? Yeah, absolutely no, either. No, definitely not. And at some point, there's no doubt we probably should. You know, I do advice on farm and all the rest of it. And if somebody told me they weren't costing their time, I would be, you know, disgusted in them. So yes, we should, and we don't. And very few of us do. But probably very like Charlie, it brings more pennies into the farm bank account at the end of the day, and that's why we're doing it. And I would say we probably spend a wee bit, some of us spend a wee bit less time on the farm. There's 3 of us, so we split jobs. I will probably do an awful lot of the marketing and things like that. And you couldn't get me on a tractor spreading slurry. So, you know, that's all right. I spend my time doing that. It's a family farm. And we just want to put more money into the family farm at the end of the day. But yes, at some point, I would love to be costing it more than we do. And genetics and everything else in New Zealand, Australia, we're not killing enough to be concerned about what anyone else does in some degree. We every animal we kill, there's nothing left. You know, we're fulfilling our market, and the only way is more animals for us. So that's great. But genetics and suckler cows is a big passion of ours, and we this year bought a shorthorn bull. Last year we started using Speckle Park. We are very interested in the marbling, the texture, the beef we have at the end of the day. So that is something we're passionate about and then we'll talk about. It's not our selling point. You know, I don't think we should compete against breeds. I'm not into that. But yeah, I'm very passionate about it. We're interested about it and we'll keep up with it. Love a podcast about Canadian beef. Love it. But it'll never be something I pit against the dairy industry or the Herefords. You know, I think everyone's got a place and all the beef is great. It just depends on what you want to do with it. Sorry, go ahead, yeah. So you're freezing, all frozen, and you're asking about packaging, vac pack versus bags. Do you want me to answer that one first? Yeah, why not? There's people in here I've done a course with, and they're laughing at me talking so much I can see them. So we vac pack. I say we vac pack it. We don't vac pack anything. The butcher vac packs our stuff. I don't touch any of this. It is more expensive, and we do pay more for it because I think it probably looks a wee bit better, and people are paying us more than you would if you went to Tesco. So we cough up a wee bit more money. We've also coughed up a bit more money this year to change the butcher because it was, for a lot of reasons, but one of them was presentation, and it just looked a bit tidier when you're paying that much money. So we will vac pack our steaks, all of our joints, sausages, burgers, and pieces all get bagged. They don't get vac packed because they would look awful if you vac packed them. So they look better in a bag. If I was going to a show or a farmer's market, then burgers, sausages, pieces look better in clear bags so you can see them. Otherwise, we do them in white bags because they freeze better. I don't know why, don't ask me, but they freeze better in white bags. But if I was taking them fresh anywhere, I would put them in clear bags so you can see them. I don't think I've missed anything there. Offal gets vac packed. Pretty much everything else will get vac packed apart from those few bits will all get bagged.
We vac pack everything.
Your sausages not get squashed?
No.
No, okay.
Special trays. I'll just finish off on that one. So we find the mince doesn't look too bad in it. Most people who are buying off us, they don't like to buy frozen, but they're going to go home and put everything in the freezer. If it's vac packed, you don't get freezer burn. So much better product. If we're doing farmers markets, you've got no chance of spillage, you've got no cross-contamination. It just covers all the boxes. It keeps everything nice and clean and tidy. If you're down in Dublin, all your fancy ones don't want to get sticky hands, so it means you've got nice clean bags and just keeps everything hunky-dory.
Does that answer your question? Sort of, okay.
We get all our offal back.
Yeah, we get our own offal back, yes. From Lakeview. Yeah. Yeah, everything has to be, tagged and traced when you're going this route down it. So, yeah, we get it all back in the day. They're not killing that many. So it's probably easier for them just to do it right than do it wrong. If you're going somewhere with hundreds and hundreds a day, I don't know. I can't comment, but small abattoir, easier to do it right than do it wrong, I would suggest.
Yeah, we've been through a few of them, and yeah, big ones, it's too complicated for the line. They're doing too much through it too quickly, and they don't care whose is whose. They just need to get the job done to go home. So they will just be putting all the offal in a bucket to go off to exotic markets. A small abattoir, family-owned abattoir, they're going to put time and effort into it because they care about you as a customer. So yeah, Lakeview hits that one, and they will select it out. But the bigger ones, they don't. Yes, we use Lakeview for a lot of our contract butchery, but because of the goats, we go to Letterkenny. So, and that's a small family-run one. I don't know about Lakeview. I don't think you do you?
I can't comment on everyone. We get on very well with the lads, so we don't buy it back. I don't know what the general...
No. Like, it's such a low-value product to them that it would be very odd for them to fight you for paying for them, but...
Especially if you're bringing them decent enough business regularly.
Unless you're going to a big abattoir, in which case you're making work for them to keep it back for you. So, possibly.
Anyone else with questions? No?
In terms of the genetics one, just from a flavor point of view, we did a BTEC meat handling skills or something back with Lochry a long time ago, and it was all about dry aging meat. And, at this point, everyone was selling your sort of 4-week dry aged. There actually becomes a point where, as humans, we cannot taste the difference as to how long it's been dry aged. And anything over 7 days for a lamb, you can't taste. And I think it was like between 20 and 30 days for the beef. You physically couldn't taste the difference and the tenderness of it. And much to be said to the same for the different types of beef. It's very difficult for a lay person to be like, oh, that belongs to that animal. But that's more from a taste perspective.
Yeah. Possibly also on the dry aging, and coming back to what I said about trying to be all things to all people. You'll get a lot of people, you'll get the odd person come to you say, I want 21 day aged, I want 105 days, I want this and that. Don't be giving in to any of that. You do what you do and that's what they buy. I'd say if you start doing things for different people, you'll never stop.
A lot of people using, like gimmicks to upsell their product versus the next product. And you're like, well, that is literally just a gimmick.
I've got a question for you, Charlie, if that's all right.
Yeah, we didn't think you'd ask us many, so we prepared.
We prepared a few. One I prepared earlier. If you were to start again tomorrow, is there anything you would change or do differently?
I'd just be doing sheep and beef. Keep
Go
it
goats.
simple. Well, yeah, I went to uni over in England, so I came with a very Anglified perception as to what I need to do with a unique selling point. But honestly, there was no one and very few people even now doing from farm to fork. And it would be damn sight easier just selling a few sheep and a few beef animals. I've loved doing the goats and the veal, but definitely it's a hard slog and it's a different slog. At the same time, it's been a very important story to tell. But yeah, it would just be easier just...
Yeah, fair. Okay. Perfect. Do you want any more questions? Shall I do one more?
Do you want me to do...
Yeah, you go for it.
So we sort of covered this to a bit, but how do you guys manage carcass utilization? Because that's obviously the biggest thing that we struggle with, which I suppose we sort of answered, but we can...
Yeah. We are quite lucky, and it probably is luck more than anything, that we've happened across a few customers who are very into offal or very into unusual cuts, or, really want certain cuts off us. So every time we kill an animal, we'll ring those customers up. And I think that happens with time as you gather up people who like certain things, and they're your first port of call. So we're quite lucky that we'll get rid of everything. And again, if it's summertime, there's a few people we'll contact. We know we're doing barbecues and we'll do a lot of burgers. We work with a few local restaurants. So a bit like you said, we might contact them to say, do you fancy doing a bit of this? So it's a wee bit of thinking outside the box, I think, and not getting down in the dumps when you're left with something, of thinking, how will I actually get rid of this? Yeah. Last question, and I've got loads, but I'll ask you just one. What has been your biggest challenge to date so far? Deep. That's me.
We're on the slide. It was definitely Brexit. Brexit has and still has so much uncertainty. We've taken the step and become EEC approved much earlier than we would have liked to as a business.
Yeah.
Definitely we no longer do wild game because it is not EEC stamped. And that was a massive part of our business. But just the threat of having a hard border was there, and it still is there because they just kick it down the road by another 12-month agreement, which is annoying. It's also meant that, previously we had the Common Agricultural Policy, we had clear vision of what was happening in 5 years' time and sort of knew what was going to happen for the next 5, and we've just got no certainty to make any form of business decisions or long-term business decisions. Brexit would be our biggest one.
Yeah.
I'm going to fire that one back to you because why not?
Oh, you did not warn me about that. What has been our biggest challenge to date? God. Probably, I think, possibly along the lines of at the start, I was quite set in we will be doing 5 kilo boxes and 10 kilo boxes, and we will get rid of everything and it will be easy. And that first realization of, some people just want steaks and some people just want 10 things of mince. And that was quite hard to get my head around. How would we manage the stock? I wasn't set up to think about that. And that did mean a rethink and reinvestment into fridges and freezers. And my poor mother lost half of her garage and we've kitted out a room. And, all of those things that you have to go with. But at the time, it probably could have set you back and you think this isn't going to work. I think that's sometimes where people just flounder and think, oh, that's not what everyone wants, so we'll just stop. So yeah, that was probably as big a challenge as we've had. But we're sort of just going with it at the minute, so I'm sure there'll be another one. But yeah, I think at the start of just this, had set in my head what we were doing and it wasn't what was going to sell. So we had to rethink. And we're still here, so hopefully we'll be all right.
And I'm going to give you the pre-prepared one. What do you find is your best sales mechanism? Because I think that would be useful to everyone.
Yeah. I'd say our best sales mechanism is probably the fact that we're very passionate about what we do. So if someone comes out to the farm or they want to stop and talk to us, God forbid they run into us in the pub, we would talk the leg off about what we do, our animals, our beef. The three of us are all very passionate about it. And we have a whole team of a family behind us. That's a big selling point for us. Sisters, brothers, mothers, everybody gets behind us, other halves. And everybody will come to us to say, I've heard somebody's having a barbecue. And it's having that team around you is probably our biggest selling point and our biggest strength is, everyone's got each other's backs and you're not just in it on your own because, Christ, that'd be hard.
What percentage of your product do you sell at home in Northern Ireland?
What goes to England? Probably 10% of it might go to England. And it tends to go to people we know. I lived in England for 13 years. My better half is English. A lot of it tends to go that way through people we know, rather than the fact that we're some marketing genius that have managed to make our way across the water. It's word of mouth and people we know. The rest of it tends to be Northern Ireland. And that is a lot more than people we know now. I'd say 80% of what we sell in Northern Ireland is people we do not know. So that's been a great success for us, is the amount of doors we knock on and deliver into housing estates and random houses you'd never think you would ever go to. The people that buy from you will surprise you, and it is great that we deliver it and we get to meet them. So yeah, I'd say 10% to England, 90% here.
I reckon I'm probably 40% in the north, 60% in the south,
Wow.
18, 90, and then 10% into the UK maybe. So definitely a lot more raw meat is sold in the south. We make a trip every Saturday down and do 2 markets in Dublin. Like, it's a much bigger population, so there's a lot more people there to sell to. We also do St George's Market in Belfast. It's good, but most of our sales in the north is probably through the street food trailer. That doesn't make it into the south. Like, logistically, it's just a nightmare. And then 10% of sales into the UK is probably through our website. So, yeah, roughly.
Perfect. We done with questions? Everybody happy enough? Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the questions. We'll stick around anyway for 10 minutes if anyone else does want to ask us anything. But yeah, thank you very much for coming.